Hey there. Ready to really shake things up? We're diving deep into Zero to One today by Peter Thiel. It's all about, building companies that don't just follow the pack, but create something truly new.
Yeah, Teal would say going from 0 to 1, not just 1 to N.
Exactly. And he should know, right? I mean, this is the guy who co-founded PayPal, invested in like Facebook,
Yeah.
SpaceX back when they were still kind of figuring things out.
Which is amazing to think about now.
Totally. But here's the thing. He says those companies didn't just get lucky. They succeeded because they understood some like fundamental truths about innovation, about value creation, stuff that most people just completely miss.
It's like they had a secret decoder ring for the future of business.
Okay, so let's crack the code then. He says the goal isn't to compete, it's to like escape competition. What does that even mean? It's not like you can just, I don't know, snap your fingers and make your competitors disappear.
It's more about, I think, aiming to be so good, so uniquely good at what you do, that traditional competition it becomes irrelevant. Think like Google back in the early 2000s.
Okay, yeah.
They weren't just a little bit better than other search engines. They were like 10 times better.
Yeah, they totally changed how we use the internet. So instead of trying to be like 10% better, we need to think bigger, bolder, aim for that 10x improvement.
Exactly. That's how you create I don't say monopoly, but, a situation where you're offering something so valuable that there's just no real substitute.
So instead of trying to outdo everyone in a crowded market, I should focus on creating something so new, so different that it makes the competition, I don't know, obsolete.
Precisely. Find that niche where you can be the absolute best in the world, even if it seems small at first. Remember, Amazon started as, what was it, just an online bookstore?
It's crazy to think of Amazon as just a bookstore now. I mean,
Yeah,
they sell everything.
exactly. But that laser focus allowed them to just completely dominate that one area and then expand outwards.
So it's like you need that unshakable foothold, that 0 to 1 innovation before you go wider.
Exactly. And that's where Thiel's ideas about the future come in. He says, we're too stuck in this indefinite mindset. We're afraid to really go for it, to make those big, bold, long-term plans. He wants us to be more like those crazy engineers from like the 1950s who were dreaming up ways to reshape the entire San Francisco Bay with giant dams.
Okay, wow, that's a pretty bold vision.
It's about embracing what he calls definite optimism, this idea that the future can be radically better if we actually work towards a specific vision.
So instead of just hoping for the best, we need to define what best even means and then go after it.
Exactly. It's about focusing your energy on the things you can control, not, spreading yourself thin, trying to prepare for every single possibility.
That makes sense for business, but he also talks about this in terms of like our careers, even like scientific research. It's like we're so busy optimizing for every possible opportunity that we forget to ask ourselves what we really want to be doing.
Right. And that actually ties directly into this concept of the power law.
Okay, hit me with it.
So the power law is this idea that we don't live in a world where everything is evenly distributed. A very few things have a huge impact, while most have very little.
It's like that 80-20 rule,
Yeah.
right? Like 80% of the effects come from just 20% of the causes.
Yeah, exactly. And Thiel shows how this applies to so many things. Investing, where, one wildly successful company can more than make up for a bunch of failures. It even applies to how we think about our careers.
It makes me think of that whole PayPal mafia thing. Thiel's early team, they went on to found Tesla, LinkedIn, YouTube.
Right.
Imagine being part of that early growth, even if it meant maybe having a smaller slice of a much, much larger pie.
Exactly. And that's a really powerful example of how aligning yourself with the right company at the right time can be even more impactful than, going it alone.
So it's not always about being the founder. Sometimes it's about spotting the rocket ship early on and just getting on board.
Right. He's not saying that starting your own company is the wrong move, but he wants you to be strategic about it. Ask yourself, where will my efforts have the most impact? Sometimes being part of something truly groundbreaking, even in a smaller role, can be incredibly fulfilling and ultimately more impactful than, just striking out on your own.
That's an interesting way to think about it. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit here. I want to talk about secrets. This is where things get really intriguing. Thiel argues there are still fundamental truths about the world, hidden opportunities, things that most people just completely miss. He's not talking about conspiracy theories.
No, not at all. It's more about looking beyond what's obvious, beyond what everyone else accepts as the truth.
Okay.
Think about Airbnb, right? They connected travelers with empty rooms.
Hmm.
Uber connected riders with drivers. These seem so simple in retrospect, but at the time, they were secrets just waiting to be uncovered.
So how do we get better at spotting these secrets, these opportunities that everyone else is missing?
It often starts by questioning assumptions. Like, what does everyone just accept as true that might be totally wrong? What are the obvious solutions that, for some reason, nobody is pursuing?
It's about looking for those gaps in the conventional wisdom, those blind spots where a truly innovative idea can like sneak through, right?
Exactly. And sometimes those overlooked opportunities are hiding in plain sight.
You know, this whole idea of secrets, it makes me think of something else Teal talks about, the whole relationship between humans and machines.
Oh, yeah, definitely. That's another area where he really challenges the usual way of thinking.
A lot of people see it as like us versus them, right? Like AI is coming to take our jobs, that kind of thing. But Teal, he doesn't see it that way, does he?
Not at all.
Yeah.
He sees it more as this, powerful partnership, something he actually learned firsthand at PayPal, actually, battling credit card fraud.
Okay, how so?
Well, they couldn't review every single transaction manually,
Oh, yeah.
obviously, right? So they had to build a system.
Hold on. This is making me think of something. Okay, so back in the day, everyone thought that chess, right? That was like the ultimate test of human intelligence. And then Deep Blue beat Kasparov, and everyone freaked out.
Right. But even now, even the most advanced AI can't really match, like, a child's intuition in certain areas. It's not about replacement. It's about figuring out how humans and machines can work together, complement each other.
Okay, so back to PayPal. What kind of system did they build?
So they used algorithms to kind of flag suspicious transactions, but it was still human analysts who made the final call. So the machine did, like the heavy lifting, but the human was still there, providing the judgment, the intuition.
Interesting. A powerful combination. It's like the machines help us see the patterns we might miss, but we get to decide what those patterns actually mean, what to do about them. That feels a lot less scary than, the whole robots taking over scenario.
Exactly. And it's not even just about making the existing processes more efficient. This whole human-computer synergy, it's also key to unlocking completely new possibilities.
Okay, so instead of being afraid of the robots, we should be looking for ways to like work with them.
Exactly. Now, shifting gears a little bit here, Thiel also has some interesting things to say about this whole first mover advantage idea.
You mean that pressure to be the first one to market, to be the next big thing?
Exactly. He actually kind of challenges that whole assumption head on.
Really?
Yeah, he says that being first, it's more of a tactic. It's not the be all and end all. What really matters is building a business that can generate cash flow in the future. It's about having staying power. And being first doesn't necessarily guarantee that.
So are you saying it's better to be late to the party?
Think of it more as like being the last mover, the one who comes in and makes the final defining innovation in a market. Then you're the one who gets to enjoy those monopoly profits for years, even decades.
It's like the difference between being the first to invent the smartphone and being the one to perfect it in a way that everyone else is playing catch up for years.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that's where things like proprietary technology, network effects, that's where those really become essential for building a lasting business, not just, a fleeting moment of first mover hype.
Okay, I have to ask about this one. Luck versus skill. It's like one of those debates that never goes away. Where does Teal land on that whole spectrum?
He actually has a really nuanced view of it, I think. He acknowledges that, yeah, luck definitely plays a role, but he rejects this idea that it's all just, random chance. He believes we actually have a lot more agency than we often give ourselves credit for.
So how do we, create our own luck?
It goes back to that difference between indefinite and definite thinking, right? That indefinite approach, it's passive. You're just sort of sitting around waiting for things to happen to you. But definite thinking, it's about having a vision and then actively working to shape the future that you want.
So instead of just hoping for a lucky break, you create your own opportunities by actually going after what you want.
Exactly. And he says that we often fall into this trap of what he calls indefinite optimism, this sort of vague sense that, oh, things will work out, but without a real plan for making it happen.
It's like spending all your time perfecting your resume instead of figuring out what you actually want to do with your life.
Right. Exactly. It's about moving from that indefinite mindset to a definite one. Think about those engineers who wanted to reshape the San Francisco Bay.
Yeah.
That's definite optimism in action.
Okay, I'm definitely seeing a theme here. So we've got definite optimism, we've got escaping competition, And then there's this whole power law thing he keeps coming back to.
Yeah, the power law is really fundamental to how Thiel thinks about the world. This idea that we don't live in a world where everything is just evenly distributed.
Yeah.
A few things, a very few things, have this disproportionately huge impact.
Like that 80-20 rule we were talking about earlier, right?
Exactly. And Thiel shows how this applies to, like, investing, right? Like a single successful company can make up for a whole bunch of failures. But it also applies to our career choices, too.
Right, like with the whole PayPal Mafia example.
Exactly. It highlights how joining the right company at the right time can have this, like, outsized impact on your whole career trajectory.
So even if it means maybe owning a smaller piece of a much, much bigger pie, ultimately it might be the better bet.
Right. He's not saying that starting your own company is a bad thing, but he wants you to at least think strategically about it. Like, ask yourself, where will my efforts actually have the most impact? Sometimes being part of a true rocket ship, even in a smaller capacity, can be much more fulfilling and ultimately impactful than just, striking out on your own.
That's such a powerful message, especially in today's world where everyone seems to be obsessed with being a founder. Okay, we were talking about secrets earlier. What are some practical ways that we can actually uncover those hidden opportunities, those things that other people are missing?
It often comes down to questioning assumptions. Like, what does everyone agree on that might actually be totally wrong? What are the sort of, obvious solutions that, for some reason, nobody's pursuing?
So it's about looking for those gaps, those blind spots, the things that seem obvious in retrospect, but that everyone else is just completely overlooking.
Exactly. And sometimes, those overlooked opportunities, they're hiding in plain sight.
It's like we're conditioned to follow the crowd, even when it's leading us right off a cliff.
Yeah, and Thiel gives this great example of what happens when that happens, when everyone just blindly follows the herd.
You're talking about the clean tech bubble.
Exactly. In the
Yep.
mid-2000s, right? So much hype around clean energy, everyone knew we needed it, but very few companies had a really solid plan for, how to actually succeed.
They were so caught up in the excitement, the feeling that they were saving the world, that they kind of forgot about the whole business plan thing.
Exactly. And that's where Thiel's 7 questions come in. He says every great business, no matter what industry, needs to be able to answer these 7 questions.
Okay, so give me the rundown. What are the 7 questions?
So number 1, the engineering question. Can you actually build it? Then there's timing. Is now the right time to, enter the market? And the monopoly question. Are you starting with a big share of a small market?
So it's not enough to just have a cool idea. You need to be realistic about the practicalities, right?
Exactly. And it's not just about the product or service itself. It's also about, the team. That's question number 4. Do you have the right people in place?
Because the best idea in the world won't go anywhere without a team that can actually make it happen.
Right. Then there's distribution. Can you actually get your product or service in the hands of customers? And durability. Can you defend your market position over time?
So it's about building something that lasts, not just chasing the flavor of the week.
Exactly. And then finally, that secret question. Have you identified a unique opportunity that everyone else is just, completely missing?
So going back to clean and tech, how did those companies measure up against these 7 questions?
A lot of them failed, honestly, because they just didn't have good answers. They underestimated the importance of a solid business plan, a real, competitive advantage.
It's like they thought, oh, well, clean energy is important, so the normal rules of business don't apply to us.
Yeah, something like that. But Thiel actually uses Tesla as an example, like a counterexample. One of the few clean tech companies from that era that's not only survived, but thrived.
And it seems like they really did nail those 7 questions. They had a clearly superior product with the Roadster. They timed that government loan perfectly, and they built a brand that, people actually connected with on an emotional level.
And they had that secret sauce, right? They understood that clean tech wasn't just about the environment. It was also about, appealing to people's values, their aspirations.
So it sounds like Thiel is saying that we need to move beyond this vague sense of indefinite optimism and really embrace a more concrete, action-oriented approach.
He calls it definite optimism. It's about believing that the future can be better, but only if we have the courage to actually go out and make it better.
So it's about identifying those hidden truths, asking those tough questions, and then actually getting to work building the future that we want to see.
It's about going from 0 to 1.
Love it. And with that, we've reached the end of our deep dive into 0 to 1. What's the one big takeaway you want our listeners to walk away with today?
I think For me, it's that each of us has the potential to create something truly new and valuable in this world. But it starts by questioning assumptions, embracing that definite optimism, and, really internalizing this idea that we are not just passengers on this ride, right? We're the drivers.
We get to choose where we're going, chart our own course.
Precisely.
And on that note, we'll leave you with this final thought. If every truly great company is a conspiracy to change the world, what secret will your company be built around?